everyone.
Hello.
And welcome to a video where we specifically are looking at a perfumer this time. I don't really think we've done that before.
No.
And actually it's quite nice to be able to delve in a bit deeper to the characters behind the creations.
Yes.
I feel like certainly now and continuing to the future, Frederick Malle started this, I think, where the name of the perfumer will be more in the public eye. A bit like when the celebrity chefs came out of the kitchen.
Yeah, they're more like celebrities now, definitely.
And perfumers like Francis Kirkshine have their own house.
Yes.
So, Sarah, you went on a course recently about the gentleman we're going to talk about.
Yes, so that's the reason why we kind of felt inspired to do this video. So I went on a course with a perfumer called Daniel Pescio. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I will link his various things down below. Anyway, he did a course on a focus on Claude Ellena. And Claude Ellena is always someone I've been interested in anyway. Like we say, we work with a lot of his fragrances. We've both met him a few times. And so I was really interested to find out more about his history, his inspirations, the kind of fragrances he's worked on and how they come together. And so we thought I'd share what I learned and what we both know with you today.
So what, when you started sort of studying him for this course, what did you find out about his background that led him to perfume?
Okay, so he is from a perfume family, as actually a lot of perfumers are.
It tends to be a family handed down.
It is.
Maybe those people just have a great nose.
Yes, and I think it is something that you do need to start quite young. You know, actually Daniel, who ran the course, said that he went to enroll in perfume school in his 30s, and it was really too late. You have to be young. So he was born in Grasse, the home of perfumery, in the south of France in 1947. His father was a perfumer, so that was his kind of destiny.
And now his daughter's a perfumer.
Yes,
so talking about it being handed down generation to generation.
He apparently though wasn't that interested initially.
Was it kind of I'm
bit of a rebel,
perfume.
And I think apparently he went to actually work doing night shifts in a factory that made fragrance just for the cash. And it wasn't a particularly inspiring job, it was just a kind of factory job. But he realised that actually maybe he should give it a go.
But he didn't study in France though,
No, so he went actually on one of the first schools with Givaudan in Switzerland. Givaudan are a big house now who make a lot of fragrances and individual ingredients. So he studied with them, but his talent was obviously there from birth, and so he only did a few months of the course before a house called Roux, who I hadn't actually heard of before.
I don't know them.
And I don't know if they're still around now, but anyway, Roux was the place where Edmund Rudnitzer had been working, and Edmund
was
Rudnitzer,
a famous perfumer.
Very famous and a massive inspiration to Claude Ellena. And so he met him through there, and also people like Dominic Ropion, who's
massive now,
big now. He met him there, and he's they've worked quite closely, I think, together. Quite good friends. So that was how he kind of studied and got started and everything, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah, what's he inspired by? Because I know you sort of started looking at his kind of character. And
he's a very creative man. I mean, I know that just from having met him as well, and I think you thought the same, that he's very artistic. I mean, I remember once when I met him, and we said to him, it's quite annoying that you don't tell us what the notes are in your fragrances because we want to be able to tell.
They might give like one or two impressions.
And we was like, why is that? And he just kind of laughed. He's got quite a sense of humour actually, and he speaks he's French, but he speaks really good English because his wife is Irish. So anyway, he said, I'm an artist, which definitely he is, and if you think you went to an art gallery to view a painting, you wouldn't say to the artist who was stood next to it, oh, so tell me, what specific Pantone colour is that yellow there? Why did you mix that red with that black there, you wouldn't. You would say, what's your inspiration? What's the feeling of this painting? And that's how he wants his fragrances to be talked about, not like a recipe, but like a feeling.
Yeah, I quite
so nice.
I do like that. And he is, of course, an artist as well. He paints himself. And when I met him, it was a number of years ago now, he had a little notebook that he had taken. At the time he was working for Hermes, and they went on a trip to Egypt because they were looking at making un jardin solennel, and he had a little book of paintings that he had done. Just thoughts and inspirations, capturing those on paper that help him then think about how he wanted to create the perfume.
Yeah, and he's also very into literature and writing himself, and particularly actually inspired by Japan and Japanese culture, and he loves this idea of these Japanese poems called haikus.
Oh,
is that right?
Yeah, small, short
poems. The idea is that you say them in one breath, and a lot of his fragrances have that feel to them. So actually, maybe we'll start by kind of sharing some of the fragrances he's made over these, because you'll see the style. So I think really the first well-known fragrance he made was First by Van Cleef & Arpels, which was his first fragrance. Also the first fragrance from a jewellery house and from Van Cleef & Arpels.
Yeah.
And
now this isn't simple like a haiku poem at all.
Exactly.
It's really a cacophony of big florals.
Yeah, so this was launched in the 70s. So it was the time of power dressing and all the opulence, you know. And
it smells so rich.
Yeah.
You know, expensive.
It does. Apparently he made this for his mother, which would explain why it's so different to everything else that he's done since, because this was for someone else rather than for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's very grown-up woman, isn't it? I can imagine my mum when I was a child, you know, and I grew up in the 80s, you know, big hair, big shoulder pads, big earrings, you know, big makeup.
It's so glamorous. Yeah, it's so glamorous. It's also got a lot of aldehydes in it, so which was a very kind of it gives that very expensive feel to it, and all those bold florals. I remember actually when sitting with him and asking him, because we worked with this fragrance, I said like, oh, so what's your inspiration, or what's your thoughts about First that you made? And he said, oh, I was a completely different person then. This was a completely different me. When I look at that now, I don't recognise myself. Yeah. My style has changed so much.
You're right. It's a very different style to both the other two that we're going to talk about. And we work with all three brands, and all three fragrances have a really loyal audience, actually. And I still think, you know, when I smell this, I haven't smelled this for a while.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Oh yeah, it just, you know, it smells of money.
So then the next fragrance, which he is most well known for creating, was in the 90s, and this was the first fragrance for Bulgari, which is Eau Parfumée Eau Thé Vert, which is another brand we work with, and another fragrance that we love, actually, isn't it?
We've talked about this, haven't we, before, and just how refreshing and how clean it is. That green tea note is just divine, but mixed with that slightly sort of peppery note, which just gives a zing.
Apparently as well, he actually made this fragrance many years before 92, and he'd like submitted it. We've talked about this before, how often perfumers will submit things like a pitch to a brand, and sometimes they often don't take them, and so he'd submitted this for something else and they didn't want it, and then Bulgari wanted a fragrance, actually not to sell.
No, interesting. It was like a gift
for their jewellery customers.
Which, I mean, let's face it, if you're going into the beautiful world of Bulgari and you're going to spend thousands of pounds on a jewel, how lovely to get a jewel of a fragrance as a little extra. But it became so popular that Bulgari was like,
to buy it.
We need to put this into proper production. It's still, I mean, 92, did you say?
92, yeah.
So it still smells as relevant today.
It completely does.
As it did
and this is where we start to see his style of a very clean and quite minimal fragrance, like a softness and a kind of everything's very translucent and diaphanous and dreamy.
Yeah, there's not a big clashing of ingredients. You know, if we compare first with its huge floral bouquet to the Bulgari fragrance of Eau Vert, which smells very linear to me, you can see it is a different person. Almost.
Yeah, so obviously kind of he got into his style.
And it's very unisex.
Definitely, which actually a lot of his stuff is. Yeah. So in a same kind of style is a fragrance that he made for Cartier in 1998, which is Declaration. We've definitely talked about this before. It's really a classic men's fragrance. Key notes of fresh spices and then cedarwood, and actually one of the most prevalent spices in this is cardamom.
Wasn't this, sorry to interrupt, I was just thinking actually in terms of first, I heard that this was the real first masculine fragrance was fresh and spicy, because the warmth spices were used traditionally in more masculine fragrances, weren't they?
But he loves this kind of this fresh feel, and cardamom has become one of the notes that he uses a lot since then. So after creating Declaration, there was actually a lady working with him at Cartier during this time who then moved to Hermes, and he then had that link to go and do some work for Hermes, and
he started with a Jardin
in Mediterranean, which is actually the fragrance that we studied in this course that I went on. So very interesting, and that was launched as in 2003. So he was kind of a guest perfumer at that point, and then he was announced as the in-house perfumer at Hermes from 2004
up until last year. No,
last year, the year before, when Christine Nigel came on board. So I actually don't know what Jean-Claude is up to now, if you're watching.
Probably enjoying some me time.
I think he is. So he lives in the area of Grasse, still in the south of France.
If you've never been to Grasse, do so go. Nice. We did a vlog quite a while ago about it. It is just so stunning, and I can really see that someone growing up in that area, surrounded by those amazing scents and surrounded by perfume factories, because there are so many there, you can understand that life of perfumery being natural to them.
And as you said before, his daughter Celine has carried on the tradition to work as a perfumer. She actually made the home collection that Hermes launched a while back, and she's made other fragrances as well for other houses. So we'll see if she kind of carries on, and we'll see if Jean-Claude releases anything else with any other houses.
And also, I think we mustn't underestimate where perfumers were inspired by other perfumers. And,
definitely.
And I definitely think that this style, this sort of lovely linear, transparent, simple style in perfume, you do see that in other fragrances that are launched today as well. So you can really see how other people are inspired by that idea of perfume.
Yes, So we love Jean-Claude Ellena and we love his fragrances, and he's a really interesting, creative, kind and funny, actually. He has a real good sense of humour, gentleman. And so we hope you enjoyed finding out a little bit more about him and some of his creations.
If you like this, if you like the idea of having a video on a perfumer and some of the creations that they've done, then let us know, and we can do other ones. We've got lots of different perfumers that we can talk about who've worked with brands that we work with, and we'll do another one.
Lovely. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye.